the Krogan Adventures, which features a lot of different members from this one family line. The book starts off with the parents telling their kids about their ancestors, and each of the books is a different member of this family tree. So each book changes genres, it changes time periods. The one thing that sort of remains consistent is that they are historical periods, and that I do try to keep them as historically accurate as possible. The Krogan Adventures requires a lot of historical research, and so libraries are really an intrinsic part of that, both academic libraries and public libraries. In the academic ones, or in the public ones, generally speaking, whenever I first approach a new time period that I'm researching, I get as many sort of general education books on that period as possible, and so I read usually, anywhere from half a dozen to a dozen of those, and just kind of try and get a sense as to where I'd want the story to go, because most of the time I don't really have a plot in mind when I first decide to do a new book in the series. I have a year and a place, and then from there I'll start to increasingly specialize what I'm reading as I start to have a more fixed idea as to what I want the book to be about. And so I'll continually narrow it down, and as I narrow it down, the books that I have to read become more and more difficult to find. They're very tough to find on your own, and so libraries, especially ones that have older collections, are a huge tool that I use, because however much research you do, trying to find visual data to accompany that research can be really difficult. And if you're drawing everything, you want it to be accurate and you want it to come across as well as you're able. But it can be kind of tricky, and so the sparsity of museums in the regions that you're living can sometimes be a hindrance. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and so we have a lot of stuff sort of revolved around the Civil War, but that's about the extent of it. And so if I'm unable to travel to England and go to like the Leeds Armoury Museum or the British Museum or to New York to the Natural History Museum, it ends up being kind of tricky. And so one thing that I found has been increasingly helpful are kids' picture books from the 90s. Those have been huge helps, and I only discovered those from sort of perusing the library with my daughter, who's 5.5, and so we spend a lot of time in libraries together. The Nashville Public Library System is, no offense to all of the rest of your library systems, but I have never encountered one that is better suited to my personal needs and my family's needs. They do a fantastic job. They have a huge graphic novel selection. There's also, great history sections and great literature sections, and the reserve sections have really friendly reading rooms, and I just could not be fonder of those systems. You guys have been such a huge champion for graphic novels, and now that same stuff is being parlayed into games. Which I'm not a big gamer, but I know that there are a lot of kids who are, both in terms of board games and card games and role-playing games and video games. And I think that the recognition that librarians have of these different mediums as being, really good storytelling mediums that are capable of engaging an audience and sort of getting them interested in such a variety of subjects and instilling in them these lifelong passions. That is a huge deal, and you all are at the forefront of that in more arenas than I can possibly count. And I think it's fascinating that you all are such unabashed champions of so many different forms of storytelling, and it fills me with no end of admiration that you all are able to do that.